Let me assure you, there is no love more powerful than the love of God. Human love can be inconsistent. It shifts with emotions, circumstances, and self-interest. But the love of God never changes. It doesn't abandon you when you're hurting. It doesn't measure you against anyone else. It doesn't deceive to keep you close. It stays, it mends, it revives. Living alone isn't a punishment. It's a divine invitation to go deeper into your purpose. You will never uncover clarity in disorder. You won't find healing in emotional chaos. And you cannot discover peace in someone who hasn't found peace with God. Some of you are clinging to relationships out of fear of beginning again. But hear this truth: every time you walk away from what God never intended for you, you make space for what He truly designed for you. There is no deeper sorrow than staying tied to someone who depletes your soul. You were never made to endure dysfunction. You weren't created to shrink yourself so others feel secure. You weren't designed to plead for affection, loyalty, or attention. You were made to walk in divine authority. But that authority is out of reach when you're bound to the wrong people. Living alone isn't about isolation, it's about elevation. It's about stepping apart so God can shape something new within you. Some miracles can't manifest in a crowd. Some breakthroughs don't happen within a relationship. They take place in the sacred space where it's just you and God. They unfold in the silence, free from distraction. They begin when you finally surrender and say, God, take everything, I only want you. There's a difference between solitude and loneliness. Loneliness is a cry from the flesh, but solitude is often God's divine positioning. He does His most transforming work when the world quiets down. He reshapes your inner world. He transforms your thoughts. He removes the false labels you accepted about yourself. And He plants new seeds of identity, resilience, and holy purpose. You must stop dreading what the world calls being single or alone. Don't treat this time as something to survive. It's a gift to be welcomed. In this place, your spiritual insight grows sharper. Your expectations rise, your peace deepens. You no longer settle for the superficial because you've learned your worth. You no longer accept what poisons your spirit because you've tasted what is sacred. Some of you have cried yourselves to sleep because someone left. Some of you have pleaded with God to restore a relationship. But let me ask you this: why would God return someone who only hinders the healing He's doing within you? Why would He give back what He mercifully removed? Some people were not taken from your life as a punishment, but as a shield of protection. God allows people to leave so He can prevent your downfall. Living alone is not a curse. It's a divine pruning, and only through pruning can you produce real fruit. You must learn to sit in silence, not as someone abandoned, but as someone being prepared. Prepared to be filled, prepared to be used, prepared to overflow with grace, wisdom, and resilience. Let the world chase after relationships. Let others misunderstand your solitude, but you choose God, choose peace, choose divine purpose. A quiet life with God is far more blessed than a noisy life with someone who doesn't honor your soul. You don't need another voice in your ear if it drowns out God's whisper. You don't need a warm body in your bed if your spirit is left in the cold. You don't need a partner who praises you in public but tears you down in private. What your soul truly needs is spiritual alignment. What your heart truly longs for is deep inward healing. And that healing can't happen while you're still clinging to what's breaking you. Living alone shows you how to feel complete without leaning on another. It teaches you how to stand tall when there's no applause. It teaches you how to shine without needing validation. That is true strength. That is spiritual maturity. Because the truth remains, if you can't find joy in solitude, you won't find it in company. You must stop tying your value to your relationship label. You are not a fraction of a being. You're not waiting for someone to complete you. You already are complete. You are cherished. You are sufficient. And you are already in covenant with the one who made you, who shaped you, who breathed His breath into your soul, and who walks faithfully beside you. Some of you are longing for affection, but God is inviting you into consecration. Some of you are seeking connection, but God is drawing you deeper into His heart. Stop searching around you. Start seeking above you. The love you hunger for isn't found in human arms. It's hidden in the presence of God. There is a sacred gladness that comes from walking alone with Him. A joy that doesn't crumble when people leave. A joy that doesn't depend on flattery or presence. A joy that wells up from within because you are confident in who you are, and even more, confident in who you belong to. Let the world chase trends. Let others chase momentary pleasure. But you remain set apart. Remain sanctified. God will bless your quiet season. He will sharpen your discernment. He will strengthen your spirit. And when His timing is perfect, if it's part of His plan, He will bring the right people. People who won't replace Him, but who will support and align with what He's building in you. But until that time comes, rest. Rest in the quiet. Rest in the stillness. Rest in the sacred place where it's just you and the Lord. That's not a void, it's a victory. It's not lack, it's strength. Living alone isn't the conclusion of your journey. It might actually be the opening to the most powerful season of your life. Because when everything else fades and only God remains, you'll realize that He is sufficient, more than sufficient. And once your soul becomes saturated with His nearness, nothing else even comes close. No relationship, no companionship, no human embrace can ever substitute the holy intimacy between the Creator and your spirit. This is the kind of truth the world will never teach you. But God will reveal it if you're willing to walk the road of sacred separation. There's a divine weight that rests upon a soul that chooses to walk with God in solitude. It's not the heaviness of isolation. It's the mantle of preparation for purpose. You must take hold of this truth with every part of your heart. Being alone is not suffering when God has called you to it. It is strategy from heaven, a holy separation, a moment in time where God tucks you away, not to harm you, but to protect what He's planting in you. Because some battles are only won in silence. Some anointings are only released in the secret place. There are some revelations that simply cannot be delivered in the middle of noise, busyness, and constant voices. God isn't interested in competing for a crowded heart. He won't force His way into clutter. When He called you apart, it's because He wants your undivided attention. When He lets certain people leave your life, it's because He's shielding you from influences that were never meant to shape your purpose. You don't need another viewpoint when God is speaking truth. You don't need another connection when God is writing covenant with your soul. He's not trying to leave you lonely. He's preparing you for something weighty, something sacred, something not everyone around you could carry. Many of us cry out for strength, but resist the process that builds it. We ask God for direction, but avoid the silence where answers live. We long for peace while holding tight to relationships that keep breaking us. And in His kindness, God begins removing what you've been afraid to let go. He'll shut doors you keep trying to reopen. He'll sever ties you've been desperately repairing, not to harm you, but because He sees what's ahead. And He cannot let you drag yesterday's burdens into tomorrow's calling. Living alone becomes holy ground when you stop viewing it through human eyes and begin to see it with spiritual vision. The world may define success by marriage, companionship, or status. But in heaven's view, success is walking faithfully with God, even if you walk that road alone. If obeying God requires you to walk alone, then walk without hesitation. If holding on to your peace means losing people, then release them. If you need silence to hear the voice of the Almighty, embrace the stillness. There are sacred assignments over your life that cannot be fulfilled while your heart is tangled with the wrong companions. Some of you are trying to carry people into a future that was crafted by God solely for you. And every time you cling to what's no longer meant to stay, you postpone the blessings God is trying to deliver. Every time you strive to explain your worth to someone who refuses to recognize it, you drain the very strength you need. Stop exhausting yourself trying to prove your value to people who were never equipped to understand your destiny. Stop shrinking your standards to make space for those who were never called to grow with you. God sees your secret sacrifices. He knows the tears you cry in silence. He understands the ache you feel when the room goes dark and the noise fades. But listen, your season of quiet is not punishment. It is sacred preparation. Don't curse the stillness. It's where your roots dig deep. It's in those silent moments that your character is shaped. It's in the unseen hours that your faith matures and your inner strength begins to rise. Let people misunderstand you. Let them label you cold or distant. Let them say you've changed. Because the truth is you have. You've grown. You've awakened. You've learned that your spirit is not meant to be accessible to everyone. Not every bond is meant to be restored. Not every connection is part of your divine path. You now know that peace is a treasure from God, and anything that robs it must be questioned. You've come to see that certain people were meant to teach you something, but their time in your life has come to an end. Living alone isn't about rejecting love, it's about guarding your soul. It's not fueled by resentment. It's shaped by boundaries. You are not required to stay tied to what wounds you. You are not obligated to remain in places that dim your light. The only one with a rightful claim to your spirit is the one who designed it. And when you step into that authority, your decisions shift. Your words carry more weight. Your choices become more intentional. And most importantly, you stop settling. Don't be afraid of quietness. God often performs His deepest work in the stillness. Don't be afraid of solitude. His most powerful vessels are refined in the hidden place. Think of it like this. A tree doesn't blossom the moment it's planted. It must first grow downward, in the dark, in the quiet, as its roots stretch and anchor. Only after that hidden process does it break through the soil. And when it does, it stands tall, secure, and unmoved. That is what God is working in you. He is grounding you, anchoring you, and fortifying you so that when storms come, you'll remain steadfast. So when the winds of life blow, you won't crumble. And when the next relationship enters your life, it will meet a version of you that is rooted in God, not longing for people, but complete in Him. Some of you are waiting for someone to arrive and complete your story. But your story isn't broken. You are not missing a piece. You are already whole. And until you truly embrace that truth, you'll continue letting people treat you like an option. You'll keep tolerating actions that wound your spirit. You'll keep desiring what God is calling you to let go of. That stops now. Today is the day you stop placing relationships on a pedestal and begin putting God first. Today is when you stop pleading for love and start pursuing your purpose. Today is when you understand that living alone doesn't mean lacking. It means being centered in God's will, wrapped in His peace, and surrounded by His presence. You'll never experience lasting rest until your soul finds its anchor in Him. No person can ever satisfy the space in you that was made for God alone. You won't build a healthy relationship until you've built a deep foundation with your Maker. Because here's the truth, solitude teaches your spirit what it truly needs. It uncovers what you once allowed, it confronts what you avoided, and most importantly, it reconnects you with God's voice, the one many of us drowned out with distractions. Let this be the chapter where you stop fearing isolation and start running into the arms of the one who formed you. Let this be the season where you no longer measure your worth by the world's view, but by God's gaze. Let this be the moment you stop asking, "Why am I still alone?" and begin saying, "Thank you, Lord, that I am." Because when the wrong people walk away, the right blessings begin to flow. And those blessings aren't always people, they're peace, vision, purpose, and spiritual strength. You don't need someone beside you. What you need is God within you. You don't need praise from a partner. What you need is assurance from your Creator. You don't need the world to want you. You need heaven to lead you. Walk this path with your head lifted, not in pride, but in bold assurance. Not because others cheer for you, but because God walks with you. Not because you've figured it all out, but because now you know where to turn for wisdom. No more searching for love that was never meant to stay. No more pleading for attention that fades with convenience. No more trading your peace for temporary company. You are not alone. You are aligned with your purpose, aligned with your assignment, aligned with your destiny. Yes, the path is narrow, but it leads to an open space of abundance. The world may never grasp this kind of quiet joy. They may say, "You're too guarded, too distant, too spiritual." Let them say what they will. Because the closer you walk with God, the less you need to belong to places He never prepared for you. You've cried long enough. You've doubted long enough. You've carried the blame long enough. Now is the moment to rise, to fully embrace this divine solitude, and to guard the sacred space where God is pouring into your soul. Do not allow anyone to invade it. Do not let anyone diminish it. Do not let anyone disrupt it. Living alone with God is far greater than any connection that pulls you away from His peace, His presence, or your purpose. And once this truth settles deeply in your heart, you'll stop viewing this season as a valley and begin to see it as a mountain, a place of elevation, of divine perspective, and spiritual encounters. You're not waiting for life to begin. You are living it right now. And the same God who holds your tomorrow is standing with you in this very moment. Be still. Stand firm. Remain faithful, because the one who walks hand in hand with God carries more strength than thousands running with the crowd. Hear me clearly. There is a sacred strength that can only rise when you stop relying on people to support what only God is supposed to sustain. When you stop looking for someone to complete what God has already declared whole, a holy fire is lit within you. It's not pride, it's not arrogance, it's divine assurance. The kind that forms in the quiet, forged through solitude and anointed in stillness. So many souls today are exhausted not because they're alone, but because they're burdened by relationships God never approved. They're trying to survive storms in houses built without Him. They're crying out for peace in partnerships born out of fear, not faith. But when you dare to walk alone with the Almighty, you leave behind confusion and step into clarity. You trade emotional chaos for spiritual wisdom. The most profound revelations of your life won't come when you're surrounded, but when you're separated. Separation isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's divine realignment. Sometimes it's heaven's filter removing what you clung to so He can reveal what you are always destined to become. Being alone is not the same as being forsaken. Alone means chosen. Alone means marked. Alone means consecrated for something higher. People may call you too selective. Let them. You don't belong to this world. You belong to the one who made it. And what He's doing within you is far too precious to place in careless hands. When you walk alone but aligned with God, Your expectations rise not from pride, but from understanding your divine value. You stop settling for shallow affection when your soul was created for something sacred. You can't build a holy future while holding on to what God is trying to remove. Any relationship not rooted in righteousness will turn into a trap. Any connection that drains your soul is a distraction from your calling. You weren't created for confusion. You weren't built for dysfunction. You were crafted in the likeness of divine order. That's why your spirit aches when you settle. That's why your peace fades when you silence the voice of God. Because something deep within your spirit knows this isn't the end. Living alone is the space where you begin to hear the gentle affirmations of your Creator. It's where you realize your soul isn't meant to strive, it's meant to rest. It's meant to be still and trust that what is truly yours will arrive without you having to lose your identity to secure it. You don't have to manipulate, perform, or compromise your convictions just to be noticed. God already sees you. God already knows you. And when His presence becomes your sufficiency, nothing else feels like lack. You don't need a partner to be obedient. You don't need a relationship to walk in holiness. You don't need a title to be worthy. You don't need someone beside you to give you the boldness to follow God's voice. Because when God becomes your anchor, your heart doesn't collapse when others walk away. Your peace doesn't disappear when people change. You become grounded not because the road is smooth, but because your soul is rooted. Let the world idolize romance. Let others praise constant connection. But you honor the solitude God has granted you. In that stillness, He is shaping you. In that quiet, He is strengthening you. In that sacred pause, He is preparing you to carry blessings that require strong hands and a whole heart. You cannot fully embrace God's promises while your soul remains entangled in past attachments. Listen closely. Living alone reveals the difference between what merely feels good and what is truly good. It sharpens your insight. It refines your intentions. It gives you the ability to see past charisma and hear what's real. Because not everyone who sounds sincere is sent by God. Not everyone who desires your heart has the capacity to guard it. Not everyone who admires your light knows how to respect it. That's why God separates you before He raises you. So your heart stops falling for surface charm. So your spirit stops craving what once crushed you. So you don't confuse artificial affection for holy alignment. Because what is truly from God will never ask you to betray who you are. What comes from Him will never quiet your spirit. What He sends will never disturb your peace. Living alone becomes the place of purification. It's where spiritual poison is released. It's where emotional crutches are destroyed. It's where lies about your worth are confronted and dismantled. Lies that said you weren't valuable unless someone chose you. Lies that claimed you were undeserving of love unless someone chased you. Lies that defined your identity by being needed instead of being aligned with God. But once you allow those lies to die in the fire of solitude, you rise. And when you rise, those who once manipulated you lose their grip. The wrong ones no longer hold appeal. You begin to attract not what your wounds desire, but what your healed spirit truly deserves. That is exactly what God is shaping within you right now. That's the reason He has led you into a season of separation, not to break you, but to bless you with a crown. You must pass through this fire alone so that when you emerge, you are no longer molded by fear, but anchored in faith. You must dwell in this stillness so that the voice of God no longer competes with the distractions of the world. And when you rise, and you will carry a strength that doesn't rely on others, a joy that's independent of circumstances, and a peace that no person can either provide or take away. What a powerful place that is, to walk through life with contentment that is not borrowed, worth that is not dependent on approval, and a spirit that is no longer swayed by shifting emotions, but deeply rooted in the presence of the one who shaped you from dust and breathed his breath into your lungs. Now listen closely to this sacred and eternal truth. When God removes the voices of people around you, it's because he is tuning your ears to hear the sound of your purpose. When he disconnects you from certain relationships, it is never to leave you stranded. It is to draw you toward the mountaintop of divine clarity. God does not take from you what is essential. He loosens your grip from what hinders so that you can cling fully to him. He calls you apart not to wound your soul, but to purify and consecrate it. Because certain callings are too holy to be contaminated by careless hands or distracted hearts. You must arrive at a place in your spirit where you boldly declare, even if I walk alone, I will walk with God. You must grow to the point where you stop depending on popular opinion to pursue the fire of truth within you. The closer you move toward God, the more misunderstood you may become. The more focused you grow, the fewer people will remain around you. That is not a sign of failure. That is divine alignment. That is God filtering out what cannot come with you into the next chapter of your destiny. This world constantly tries to tell you that solitude is lack. But that's a lie spoken by those who have never encountered the deep fulfillment of walking in true communion with the living God. There is a joy that no human connection can imitate. There is a peace that no friendship, no relationship, no social interaction can replace. When God becomes your source, you stop chasing what depletes you. You start defending what nourishes you. You protect what uplifts you. You invest in what flows in harmony with the will of your Father. Countless people remain trapped for years in relationships that feel like captivity. Their laughter is forced. Their smiles are a mask. Their spirits grow weary. Why? Because they chose comfort over calling. They feared being alone more than they feared missing their divine purpose. And in doing so, they gave up the mission God placed on their life. But when you choose God instead of the crowd, when you prefer stillness over settling, when you prioritize growth over momentary pleasure, that's when true life begins. God cannot dwell in a heart already filled with distractions. He cannot move fully in a life cluttered with false attachments. You must be willing to let go of what He never gave you so He can pour in what is sacred, what cannot be bought, replaced, or stolen. The world may see you as unusual. Your relatives might not get it. Friends might label you distant. Let them, because you're not here to impress people. You are living to honor the one who breathes life into your soul. Living alone is not a sign of lack. It's a season of divine preparation. And preparation always happens in private. No one sees the transformation of the caterpillar sealed inside the cocoon. No one hears the stretching, the pressing, the becoming. But when it breaks free, radiant, bold, and released, it doesn't return to crawling. It takes flight. And that's what God is doing in you. You haven't been abandoned. You're being shaped. You're not stuck. You are undergoing a sacred process. Some of you are in a holy pause, and it's stretching your patience. You long for intimacy. You desire closeness. You crave someone who sees your soul. But know this. When you wait on God, He doesn't answer the cry of your feelings. He meets the needs of your spirit. He doesn't move by your deadlines. He acts in divine timing. He doesn't withhold to hurt you. He delays to preserve you. And when His timing unfolds, you'll see that every delay was a shield in disguise. Don't resent this time of solitude. Make use of it. Dive deeper into who you are. Strengthen your understanding. Cleanse your mind from the cultural lies you've absorbed. Remove every false expectation that never aligned with His voice. Tear down every idol you've unknowingly exalted: approval, appearance, romance, validation, and let God rebuild your foundation with truth. This is the birthplace of real maturity. This is where your discernment sharpens like a blade. This is where your perspective shifts and you begin to see through spiritual eyes. You begin to recognize that not every smile is genuine, not every offer is a blessing, not every person who shows up is meant to stay. So you stop clinging to what's disappearing. You stop nurturing what has already died. You stop chasing after what God has already cleared away. Because now you understand anything you must plead to keep was never sent by Him. When you dwell in solitude and walk closely with God, your spirit becomes deeply attuned. You no longer react from emotion. You respond to divine guidance. You no longer rush because you trust that His plan surpasses your own. You stop comparing your journey because you now see that what God has for you is uniquely designed, distinct, and can never be duplicated or taken. You no longer seek to be noticed. You begin to live with intention. You don't chase after love. You embody love, the kind rooted in God, anchored in truth, and surrounded by peace. Let the world do as it pleases. Let others settle for less. Let them enter relationships just to escape solitude. But you be different. Be courageous. Be set apart. Because once you truly grasp the strength of walking alone with God, you no longer see it as a setback, but as a divine setup. You don't merely endure it, you begin to embrace it. You don't simply survive it, you start to value it. And from that place of surrender, God begins to pour into your spirit what most will never access: divine wisdom, holy instruction, sacred assignments. He starts to speak to you in the stillness of night. He shows you dangers that once went unnoticed. He aligns your steps with such precision that no distraction can derail you. And when you live under that kind of divine covering, there is no room for desperation, doubt, or fear. Because walking alone with God instills a truth that cannot be shaken. You are not waiting for someone to define your worth. You already carry His name. You are not hoping to be chosen. You were handpicked when you were formed in secret. You are not looking for a rescue. You're already walking with the one who holds all authority. Do not compromise your soul to fill an empty seat. Do not silence your truth just to maintain a connection. Do not dim your light to gain acceptance. You were never made to fit in. You were born to stand out. And sometimes the price of that divine brightness is solitude. But it's far better to shine alone with God than to be surrounded by counterfeit light. So lift your eyes, square your shoulders, guard your heart, and press forward. Walk with the boldness of one who's been chosen. Walk with the insight of one who's been purified. Walk with the calm of one who needs nothing else but God. Because when you're walking with God, even alone, you are never truly alone. You walk with intention. You walk with direction. You walk in authority. And above all, you walk in the light of truth. No human bond, no flattery, no emotional affection can compare to the fullness of that sacred walk. And if your heart still trembles at the thought of being alone, let me remind you, what feels like loneliness to you, God sees as leadership. What feels like isolation, He uses for elevation. There is no voice more powerful, no hand more secure, no presence more comforting than God's when He chooses to deal with you privately. So stop asking, "Why am I alone?" and start asking, "What is God trying to reveal in this stillness?" Because it is in the quiet that heaven speaks the loudest. It is in solitude that God purifies your dependence on what is fleeting. He burns away your craving for recognition. He removes people who only stayed for their own benefit. And He begins to transform your longings so that you no longer desire shallow approval, but you yearn for holy transformation. And let me tell you, when that transformation begins, it won't always feel easy. Real growth rarely does. Refinement never arrives without fire. But once it's complete, You won't walk out broken, you'll walk out built. You won't come out empty, you'll emerge equipped. You won't be ashamed of the solitude, you'll be grateful for it. You'll start thanking God for the calls that were never returned. You'll begin praising Him for the doors that stayed closed. You'll rejoice over the people who walked away because you'll finally realize it wasn't rejection, it was divine protection. You weren't being left behind, you were being lifted up. Because God, knowing your future, could never let you drag what's already dead into a promise that's alive. Some people were sent only to teach you, not to travel with you. And when their season ends, their presence turns toxic. That's why God had to pull them away. That's why He separated you, because His love for you is too deep to let small minds hinder your great destiny. Let the tears fall, but don't let them blur your vision. Let the heartache rise, but don't let it reshape who you are. Every tear you've cried in silence, God has saved. Every quiet moment of confusion, every what now whispered into the air, God has noticed. And in due season, He will honor your obedience, not with another temporary filler, but with divine clarity. Not with another emotional attachment, but with peace so rich it silences the need for anything less than holy. There's a sacred strength in the one who's learned to be alone with God and still remain whole. When you stop reaching for someone to repair you because you've learned how to rest in the presence of your Maker. When you stop needing the spotlight because your identity is already secure in heaven. When fleeting relationships no longer tempt you because you're grounded in a covenant that cannot be shaken. God is not just comforting you right now, He is calling you to maturity. Maturity over your reactions, mastery over your distractions, victory over your past. This is not merely about isolation, it is about consecration. You have been chosen for something rare, something eternal. And if that means giving up short-term affection to embrace everlasting purpose, then it's worth it. This world thrives in shallow places, but you were designed for the depths. And what's deep cannot move alongside what is surface level. Destiny cannot walk hand in hand with disorder. Peace cannot coexist with inner chaos. You must decide. Will you cling to companionship or will you chase the presence of God? Will you lower your purpose to avoid the pain of being alone, or will you stay in the furnace until the holy within you starts to rise? Do not mistake solitude for weakness. It is sacred warfare. It is the battleground where victory is secured. It's where strongholds in your mind are shattered, where invisible wounds are healed by divine hands, where deception loses its grip and truth begins to reign. It is in this place where divine armor, clarity, endurance, and spiritual strength is secured around your soul. You cannot fulfill your calling while remaining addicted to acceptance. You cannot journey closely with God and still seek constant approval. You cannot proclaim truth and expect universal embrace. The road for the chosen is narrow and often solitary, but it is holy. And if you have the courage to walk it, you'll realize that what you thought you lost was insignificant compared to what God is building deep within you. The more you welcome the quiet, the more you begin to perceive, not through ears, but through your spirit. You'll learn to separate what merely sounds right from what is truly righteous. You'll begin to hear the whisper of God guiding you not just in major decisions, but in the ordinary, unseen moments. And in that nearness, the fear of being alone will vanish because you've tasted the completeness of His presence. You'll stop longing to be understood, satisfied instead by being fully known by God. You'll no longer feel the need to prove your value because you now walk with the unshakable assurance that your worth is eternal. You'll no longer settle for what's comfortable, but move intentionally toward what's sacred. Let the quiet become your holy refuge. Let the stillness become your instructor. Let the emptiness be the altar where God anoints you with new strength, refined vision, and unwavering truth. Because when you emerge from this season, you won't come out as who you once were. You'll rise as someone marked by God's presence, someone who carries the sacred, someone who speaks with weight, someone who walks with holy fire. And from that moment forward, you will never again accept what belittles your destiny. You'll never return to environments that made you feel inadequate. You will never again exchange your peace just to have company. You will protect what God has nurtured within you. You will guard the still place as the sacred ground where your soul remembered how to breathe again. So if God has led you into a season of hiddenness, trust that the light is on its way. And when it comes, it won't only illuminate you, it will shine through you. But until then, walk with intention in the quiet. Worship in the stillness. Stand tall in the solitude. Because this isn't just a season of being alone. This is a season of being set apart, protected, awakened. This is your time not of absence, but of overflow. Not of emptiness, but of insight. Not of grief, but of growth. And when you walk hand in hand with God, even in isolation, your soul knows no lack because He is present. He's always been there. And He will never walk away. So now, I speak life into your spirit with clarity and fire. If God has asked you to walk alone, walk with courage. If He's removed every distraction, give Him praise for the cleansing. If He has brought you into a season of quiet, thank Him for the divine stillness. You are not overlooked. You are not lagging. You are not insignificant. You are being crafted by the very hands that placed stars in the heavens and told the waves where to stop. What you gain in this solitude can never be stolen by the world, because the world did not give it. When you walk in step with God alone, you walk in divine cadence, you walk in holy alignment, you walk not in uncertainty but in authority. The world may never fully understand you, some may walk away, but if you walk with God, you walk in abundance. In Him is your peace. In Him is your value. In Him is your path. And in Him your soul finds its home. So move forward not as one abandoned, but as one escorted by the everlasting presence of God. Your steps are guided. Your heart is protected. Your future is already established. And your solitude is not punishment, it is holy shelter. Embrace it. Treasure it. And let your life declare this unshakable truth. Living alone with God is far greater than any companionship the world could offer. Revealed it to protect you. So don't question what your spirit already knows. Don't silence the discernment God placed in your heart. Don't let their sudden sweetness erase their former betrayal. When God reveals the true intentions of someone, trust it. When He lifts the curtain, don't shut your eyes just because the reality feels heavy. When they sense you've figured it out, they'll try to isolate you. Yes, they'll begin to whisper in secret. They'll stir up division. They'll twist your words. They'll attempt to sow distrust about your integrity. But hear me on this. When God is your advocate, you don't have to defend yourself. When God holds your name, no accusation can destroy it. When He fights for you, no man can prevail against you. There is a quiet confidence that rises when you walk in truth, a steady power, a still flame. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to shout. You don't need to engage in battles because God sees it all. And the truth will endure beyond every false story. The truth will remain standing after storms of gossip pass. The truth, though hidden for a time, will rise in honor. They might rally others to their cause. Let them. You don't need to convince anyone to stay loyal. You don't need to run after those who've chosen lies. Let them gossip. Let them turn away. Let them leave. The truth will remain by your side. The truth will be your comfort. The truth will uphold you when others abandon you. And listen closely, when corrupt hearts know you've seen them for who they are, they often deepen their deception. They begin spinning fresh lies to cover the old ones. They craft new strategies to manipulate. But you must remain steady. Don't react out of emotion. Don't get entangled in their schemes. Let God deal with what's beyond your reach. Don't try to reveal their actions with your own strength. God witnesses what you missed. He hears what you didn't catch. He knows what's beyond your evidence. And at the right moment, He will uncover it. At the appointed time, He will defend you. At the perfect time, every hidden thing will be brought into the open. You don't have to hurry the process. You don't have to push it. Truth follows a flawless timeline, and God is never behind schedule. When they realize you've seen through them, they may act as though nothing ever happened, pretending they never lied, never betrayed, never whispered behind your back. Don't be caught off guard. That's part of their method. It's how the guilty attempt to rewrite the narrative. But their denial doesn't erase the reality. Yes, forgive. Yes, move forward. But do not discard what God has revealed. Keep in mind, insight is a blessing, not a burden. Spiritual discernment is a sign of God's favor. Not everyone receives it, not everyone perceives. But when God gives you spiritual vision, treat it with reverence. Don't shut your eyes just to avoid conflict. Any peace that costs you your discernment is not true peace. It's spiritual blindness. Some of you have been questioning your own perception. You noticed the red flags. You sensed the change. But you allowed their charm to cloud your clarity. You let their smooth words cause you to doubt your inner wisdom. But not anymore, not after today. God brought you here to affirm what your soul already suspected. Stand firm. Exposure is not just a moment of truth. It's the moment of transition. When God reveals someone's true nature, He's preparing you for your next level. You're not just being shielded, you're being elevated. You're not simply being removed from the wrong. You're being set apart for the right. Every betrayal is a setup for positioning. Every revelation is a divine redirection. And each time the wrong connections are cut off, divine purpose takes its place. So don't be disturbed by their reaction once they realize you've caught on. Let them squirm. Let them pretend. Let them spread stories. But as for you, stay rooted in God. Stay committed to truth. Move with courage. Speak with precision. Walk with dignity. Let your silence speak volumes above their noise. Let your peace become your armor. And hear this. When God opens your eyes to what was concealed, it's not only to make you aware, it's to awaken you. The unveiling isn't the conclusion, it's the divine beginning. It signals the end of tolerating deception, the closing of your time among deceivers, the conclusion of your season surrounded by hidden agendas. God didn't show you the truth to crush you. He revealed it so you would rise. Rise into greater wisdom. Rise into sharper discernment. Rise into divine protection. Wicked people often misjudge the strength of your silence once you see the truth. They assume silence equals weakness. But when your silence is grounded in divine awareness, it becomes a force far greater than any loud accusation. Silence anchored in truth echoes like thunder in the heavens. You don't have to broadcast what you've discovered. The shift in your presence says more than words ever could. Your absence makes a louder statement than direct confrontation. And when God stands with you, even your stillness becomes a storm for those who once believed they could control you endlessly. They begin to panic. They push your boundaries. They make another attempt. But your spirit has transformed. What once attracted you now repels you. What used to confuse you is now crystal clear. That's not chance. It's the result of God illuminating your discernment. He shines a light so strong that no darkness can hide. He brings such clarity that their words can no longer sway you, and their charm no longer stirs your heart. Desperate people often make one final attempt, a last effort to regain the throne they once held in your world. They'll target your emotions. They'll say the right things. They'll mention shared pasts and old struggles. But remember this: manipulation often disguises itself as restoration. Just because someone wants to return doesn't mean they've been renewed. Just because they shed tears doesn't mean there's transformation. Often tears from bad people are the result of losing power, not feeling genuine regret. But when your trust is firmly planted in God, your heart becomes guarded by discernment, and wisdom will never lead you back to the prison God has freed you from. Here's a deeper truth. Once they know that you know, they might try to mimic your strength, your calm demeanor, your spiritual walk. Don't be fooled. Not every imitation is righteous. Not every appearance of holiness is sincere. They may borrow your tone, your principles, your vocabulary, but the spirit behind their performance remains the same. You must not judge by appearances, but by the fruit, the results of their actions, the stability of their behavior, the true motives behind their steps. God doesn't give you discernment to elevate you above others. He grants it to protect your soul. When manipulators realize their control is broken, they shift to destruction. If they can't dominate you, they'll try to ruin your name. If they can't fool you, they'll attempt to smear you. If they can't use you, they'll try to sabotage what God is building in you. But listen closely and hold this truth tightly. No weapon formed against you will succeed when your life is hidden in God's hands. Let them scheme, let them gossip, let them conspire. Their efforts are in vain, because what God protects cannot be touched by man. You must remain firm in your faith, unmoved by the noise surrounding you. When your peace is no longer available for manipulation, they'll label you heartless. Let them accuse you of pride. Let them label you as distant. Let them circulate false stories. It's not your responsibility to change their perception. Your sole responsibility is to stay in alignment with God. Their opinions do not have the power to remove the favor that God has placed over your life. Stay steady. Let truth lead your way, and let grace walk right behind you. Understand this: God never allows deception to remain buried forever. Eventually, truth demands to be seen. Sooner or later, light uncovers what darkness tried to hide. And when that time arrives, do not feel ashamed for the insight God has given you. Don't apologize for what your spirit now understands. Don't apologize for choosing a new path. Don't apologize for seeing through the illusion. Discernment may cost you company, but it grants you divine protection. It is far better to walk alone with God than to be surrounded by people who diminish your purpose. Some of you have asked, why did they act differently once they realized I could see their true nature? It's because their power dissolved the moment your eyes were opened. Their control only worked when you lacked awareness. But now that your understanding is clear, they can't manipulate you anymore. And that unsettles them, because deception cannot survive where clarity reigns. They rely on confusion. They count on you second-guessing yourself. But when God sharpens your vision, their lies fall apart like a house built on sand. Keep your focus on God. He will guide you when others lie. He will steady you through the storms of betrayal. He is your defender when your name is slandered. You don't need to fight for your reputation. God will open the right doors. He will bring justice without a sound. He will lift you up without fanfare. He will bring darkness to light at the perfect time, and when He does, everything will be revealed. Let your healing be done in quiet, but let your transformation speak through your actions. Let your development speak volumes. Let your understanding shine, and let your peace, that sacred peace from God, be the greatest evidence that you are walking in divine alignment. Because peace makes the loudest statement in the middle of chaos. It confirms that God is with you, even if the world misjudges you. You owe no one an explanation for what God revealed to you privately. Some will never accept what you've seen. They'll defend those who harmed you. They'll accuse you of being bitter, unforgiving, or overly emotional. Let them. Their blindness is not your burden to bear. The same God who opened your eyes will eventually open theirs or remove them from your journey. Either way, trust God's process. There is strength in surrendering your pain to Him. That's not weakness. It's not indifference. It's spiritual power, the power to move on without vengeance, the power to remain quiet without losing your peace, the power to smile even as you heal from wounds no one else sees. And that strength doesn't originate from within yourself. It flows from above, from God, the one who sees everything, restores all things, and forgets nothing. So I say to you now, do not return to blindness after your soul has been awakened by God's touch. Do not retreat into the comfort of deception after the fire of truth has already burned away the lies from your path. There is purpose in what God allowed you to witness. There is divine meaning in the way He stirred your spirit while others remained asleep in denial. You were chosen not just to endure the betrayal, but to flourish in the light that followed. When you walk through fire and emerge with your peace untouched, it's not because you were strong on your own. It's because God walked with you through the flames. When those with evil intentions realize you're aware of them and yet you remain steady, it's not arrogance, it's spiritual growth. You are no longer moved by emotions. You're led by discernment. You no longer seek closure. You live with clarity. You don't demand the truth, you walk in it. And that shift, that sacred growth disturbs the darkness. Let them whisper. Let them act. Let them mock. Their laughter isn't aimed at your weakness, it's a cover for their fear. Because those who operate in deception are never truly at ease around someone who has discerned their intentions. They may ridicule you, but inside they are shaking. Not because of your strength, but because of the God who stands with you, the God who protects your heart, guards your soul, and blinds the enemy's vision from interfering with your path. You were never intended to live in confusion. You weren't created to keep repeating cycles of pain. You were not designed to carry relationships that drain your spirit. That is not your destiny. That is not your assignment. You were made to walk in the light, to live with vision, and to stand anchored in the wisdom that God provides. That wisdom comes at a cost. It will cost you the approval of those who only love the blind version of you. But that cost is nothing compared to the value of gaining God's favor. When you walk with God, you become a threat to darkness. Your peace becomes strength. Your silence carries weight. Your very presence brings exposure to what was hidden. That's why some people can no longer stay close once your eyes are open. That's why the conversations fade. That's why the invites stop. That's why the smiles become uneasy glances. Because your clarity disrupts their comfort. Your truth disrupts their illusion. You don't need to respond to every rumor. You don't need to fix every false impression. You don't need to voice every truth. Sometimes the strongest answer is rising higher. While they remain tangled in deception, you grow in discernment. While they gossip, you move in purpose. While they attempt to pull you down with slander, God lifts you up with His hand. And what God elevates, no one can tear down. God doesn't reveal people to you so you can condemn them. He reveals them so you can choose wisely. Spiritual maturity isn't about revenge, it's about clarity. It's about understanding what no longer belongs in your future and stepping away with dignity. It's about recognizing that some relationships were meant to shape you, not remain with you. Those who become anxious when you discern the truth were never sincere from the start. Don't allow guilt to tie you to what God already warned you was harmful. You're not being cold, you're walking in wisdom. There is a clear line between mercy and compromise. God calls you to love, not to ignore red flags. He calls you to forgive, not to return to what shattered you. He calls you to extend grace, but also to guard the assignment He placed within you. That assignment cannot grow in contaminated ground. Toxic people may return with gifts, emotional words, and renewed promises. But be alert. Many apologies are calculated. Many promises lack substance. Many tears are staged. Pay attention. Tune in spiritually. Does their presence bring clarity or confusion? Do they draw you closer to God or pull you deeper into turmoil? God is not the source of chaos. If something robs your peace, clouds your judgment, and harms your soul, it is not sent by God. You must be willing to walk away, not in anger, but in obedience. Release it. Not because you despise them, but because you respect the direction God is leading you. Some bridges must be burned not as a punishment to them, but as a shield to protect you from going back into what almost destroyed you. When you walk out, God steps in. When you shut the door on manipulation, God swings open the gates to destiny. And when you finally pick truth over convenience, purpose over approval, and wisdom over feelings, God infuses strength into your core. Don't be shocked when your spiritual vision unsettles others. Don't shrink to accommodate their insecurity. You are not designed to blend into environments that embrace lies. You are called to stand with confidence in places where truth is honored, and wherever truth shines, deception dissolves. This is why darkness fights to keep you unaware, because the moment your eyes are open, you can no longer be controlled. Let this truth take root in your spirit. God is not just exposing things for no reason. He is shaping you. He is preparing you. He is expanding you for the assignment ahead. And in that next dimension, access won't just require love, it will demand discernment. Not every cheer is genuine. Not every smile is sincere. And not every figure from your history is meant to walk into your destiny. So I say with urgency burning in my heart, this is not the moment to question what God has revealed. This is not the time to gaze back longingly at what God delivered you from. This is not the season to silence the voice of discernment God placed deep within you. The enemy finds strength in your hesitation. Deception lingers when you leave the door slightly open. Confusion grows when you entertain what God has already removed. When wicked people realize you've seen through their disguise, they often resort to spiritual manipulation. They'll recite scripture. They'll act like they walk in holiness. They'll use God's name to defend their actions. But hear me clearly. Invoking God's name does not mean they are walking in His will. Anyone can speak holy words, but the actions of a person always reveal the condition of their heart. God is not deceived by empty religious language, and neither should you be. When God opens your spiritual eyes, your responsibility deepens. You're no longer walking just for yourself. You're carrying wisdom that future generations will inherit. You're living proof that divine protection is real. You are evidence that discernment is not overthinking its divine preservation. So don't diminish what God showed you just to ease the discomfort of others. Don't suppress your discernment to maintain shallow relationships. You were never called to blend in. You were chosen to stand apart. When bad people know you've seen them for who they really are, they often try one final move. They attempt to make you feel guilty for recognizing the truth. They twist your clarity into accusation. They accuse you of lacking love, of being bitter, unforgiving, or judgmental. They try to flip the story until you question your own discernment. But stay anchored. God didn't give you insight to torment you. He gave it to guide and protect you. What you perceive isn't arrogance, it's spiritual intelligence. And that gift must be respected, not dismissed. In a world where deception disguises itself as kindness and compliments are used as weapons, discernment becomes your shield. And that shield must be worn confidently. Your role is not to publicly call people out. Your role is to walk guarded, covered by grace. And when manipulative people realize they've lost access to your trust, they'll become frantic. But your peace is no longer up for discussion. It belongs to God. And whatever endangers that peace must be cut off without hesitation or guilt. Let me speak something powerful into your spirit. There are blessings waiting on the other side of obedience, blessings far beyond material things. The blessing of mental clarity, the blessing of a heart no longer ensnared by deception, the blessing of restful nights, no longer replaying twisted conversations, the blessing of moving through life free from entanglement with anyone's hidden motives. That kind of freedom is a gift only God can give. No manipulator can copy it. When you begin to walk in that liberty, others will notice. Your presence will shift the atmosphere. Your silence will carry weight. Your speech may slow, but each word will carry divine authority. Because when God rescues you from deception, He doesn't fill you with pride, He fills you with power. The power to walk away quietly, the power to release without needing to explain. That is spiritual authority. And that authority is yours to walk in. The authority to say no without shame. The authority to establish boundaries that protect your calling. And understand this clearly. God isn't just revealing who others truly are. He's revealing who you've always been. He's reminding you that you were never created to live under guilt, control, or emotional manipulation. He's showing you that your worth is not defined by how much brokenness you're able to carry. You are not their rescuer. You are not their therapist. You are a vessel of divine purpose, and that purpose must be guarded with sacred urgency. Sometimes God allows you to experience the sting of betrayal so you will never again mistake false loyalty for the real thing. He permits disappointment to train your heart to teach you the distinction between genuine love and unhealthy attachment. The pain carries a lesson. The exposure has divine intent. It's refining your discernment, shaping your insight, preparing your heart not to become hard, but to become wise. Because clarity is a shield. Once you begin seeing people for who they truly are, you stop expecting them to be what they're not. You stop pouring into things that produce no fruit. You stop repairing bridges God asked you to block. And that change, it's not resentment, it's revelation. It's not being cruel, it's being careful. It's not condemnation, it's growth. And when God observes you walking in that kind of clarity, He starts entrusting you with more purpose, more insight, more authority, because now you're no longer governed by feelings. You're being led by His Spirit. So don't weep over the relationships that disappeared when the truth came into view. Don't regret the silence that followed after the disguises fell away. That space was orchestrated by God to give you room for peace, for direction, for alignment. There are people waiting to join you on the journey who are ready for the version of you that no longer lives in illusion. There are doors set to open once you stop knocking on those that lead to nowhere. There's momentum waiting to be unleashed once you stop carrying burdens labeled as loyalty. And listen carefully. When deceptive people lose their grip on you, they will try to redefine you. They'll call you cold. They'll accuse you of arrogance. They'll say you've become someone else. And they're right, you have. You've been transformed by truth, matured by trial, strengthened through solitude, and grounded in divine insight. And that transformation is holy. You cannot return to ignorance. You cannot unsee what the Lord has revealed. You cannot unlearn what He has etched into your soul. Your growth came at a price too high to retreat to blindness, and your destiny hinges on your ability to remain alert. God has assignments for you that demand your undivided attention, your complete alignment, and your unwavering strength. You can't afford to be distracted anymore. Those same people who tried to crush your spirit, question your identity, manipulate your emotions, and distort your words, they don't qualify for a seat at your next table. They may observe from afar, but they will not feast where they once tried to starve you. This isn't their calling to plant doubt about your anointing, to exhaust you with chaos until you're too drained to enter the very door God has opened for you. And when it becomes clear that someone you cared for, someone you supported, someone you covered in prayer was the very one sabotaging your destiny, do not dare call it a harmless mistake. That is a betrayal of holy purpose. Understand, God is not only concerned with you getting by, He is deeply invested in your mission. And when someone knowingly obstructs the timing of your assignment, when they intentionally pull you away from the direction God set, when they misuse your kindness, waste your time, or create war on your road, know this: the enemy is using them. And you, beloved chosen one, are not anointed to sit quietly while your divine calling is destroyed. No, you are anointed to rise up. You are set apart. You are commissioned to defend what God is creating through your life, to extend grace to that kind of betrayal. While the enemy still has their tongue, is like handing your house keys to a known thief. God may have a plan for their redemption, but that redemption must never cost you your destiny. The third betrayal that must never be excused is the one that attacks your intimacy with God. Yes, there are people who enter your life not to strengthen your walk, but to sever it. Some relationships begin with charm, but are rooted in darkness. They may offer compliments, comfort, and companionship, but buried underneath is a demonic purpose. They begin pulling you from the place of prayer. They scoff at your convictions. They water seeds of doubt. And suddenly you don't fast like you once did. Suddenly your fire grows dim. Suddenly you're tolerating what you once rebuked. That is no accident. That is a spiritual ambush. God didn't rescue you from darkness for someone to pull you back into it. If anyone in your life has knowingly led you away from God's will, encouraged sin, dismissed your standards, caused you to suppress your conscience, then you must recognize the truth. It is a spiritual violation. To offer forgiveness to such betrayal while that person remains arrogant and unrepentant is to betray your devotion to God. You cannot take lightly what is sacred. You do not allow anyone to trample the holy fire of your relationship with the Almighty and pretend it's acceptable. No, my friend, that is more than betrayal. That is spiritual treason. There are some betrayals not meant for reconciliation. They are meant to be remembered, so you never return, so you never repeat. So you never allow that entrance to reopen. You can move forward. You can lay down the burden. You can even lift them up in prayer. But don't confuse closure with reunion. Don't confuse inner calm with renewed connection. Don't welcome the serpent back to your table and call it grace. God is not mocked. He witnessed what was done, and He will handle it in His appointed time. But your role is to guard the sanctuary. You must protect what was promised. Remain pure, stay grounded, and keep your distance from the betrayal that endangers your transformation. Let them label you bitter. Let them accuse you of being unforgiving. But God knows your heart. He sees the scars and respects the boundaries you've established. Not every act of forgiveness ends in reconnection. Sometimes forgiveness is closing that chapter, discarding the key, and refusing to revisit the past. Sometimes the most sacred act is saying, God, I release them into your hands, but I will not journey with them again. because your assignment is too important. Your peace is too valuable. And above all, your walk with the Lord must be guarded at any cost. Some people must be loved from a distance. Some apologies will never reach your ears. Some answers will never be given. And that's perfectly fine. God's justice is thorough. His timing is precise. His judgment is righteous. He doesn't require your assistance to right the wrongs, but He does ask for your obedience to walk away. If you keep clinging to those who broke you, you are signaling that your loyalty to humans outweighs your commitment to divine purpose. That cannot be your reality. Walking away is not hatred. Safeguarding your spirit is not bitterness. Refusing to forget who tried to sabotage your calling is not vengeance, it is discernment. It is insight. It is spiritual strength. Let them whisper. Let them twist the truth. Let them spread their own version, but you remain unwavering. Keep your gaze on the Father. Keep your footing anchored in righteousness. Protect your vessel as the sacred dwelling it is, because God abides in you. His Spirit speaks within you, and His purpose flows through your life. And if someone violated your sacred trust, disrupted your purpose, or waged war against your relationship with God, then heaven's message is clear: never again. You can bless them quietly, you can hold no grudge, but you will never surrender your spirit to them again. You will never allow them near what is consecrated. You will never hand them the power to harm you a second time, because now you know. Now you've matured. And now you journey with God, eyes wide open, armor in place, fire in your bones, and truth upon your lips. The season of blind forgiveness has ended. The time for holy separation has arrived. Let the world misinterpret you. Let them give you false names. You are not unkind. You are not without compassion. You are restored. You are set apart. And you are no longer accessible to betrayal wearing the mask of love. You don't owe anyone entry to your peace. You don't owe anyone the opportunity to wound you again. What you owe is your loyalty to God, your integrity, your purpose. And God finds delight when you choose Him over emotional guilt. He is glorified when you guard what He entrusted to you. And He will always stand behind those who remain grounded in His truth. Now let me speak something deeper, something few are bold enough to declare. God never required you to make peace with destruction. There is a season for reconciliation, yes, but there's also a season for release. There's a sacred time when God declares, "That's enough. You've wept enough. You've twisted yourself into knots enough times. You've offered enough forgiveness. Now it's time to defend what's still whole." And when that moment comes, letting the betrayer remain close isn't mercy, it's rebellion. It's telling God, "I know better," even after He revealed the truth to you. My friend, betrayal is more than a wound, it is a revelation. It exposes someone's true nature, not during quiet seasons, but when your destiny begins to unfold. Some people cherish you when you're down. Some support you only when they feel superior. But when God's favor starts encircling your life, when His light rises upon you, pay attention to who changes. That change isn't random. That's betrayal that has been waiting silently, ready to strike. And when it finally appears, don't minimize it. Don't coat it in kindness. God didn't give you discernment just to admire goodness, but also to identify threats. And be warned, betrayal often wears the face of devotion. It smiles. It offers help until your value to them runs out. But God sees what lies beneath. God understands what you cannot. And when He uncovers it, though it may break your heart, though it may shake everything you knew, thank Him. Thank Him for ending the illusion. Thank Him for revealing what was hidden. Because it's far better to weep in truth than to rejoice in illusion. It is far better to walk alone in the light than to be surrounded by those secretly tearing you down. Hear me. Some of you are still aching from wounds that God already told you to leave behind. You are mending ties with people who are enemies to your wholeness. You're keeping bridges standing that God already lit with holy fire. Why are you rebuilding what heaven removed? Why are you trying to defend yourself to those who weaponized your honesty? That's not your weight to carry. You were never called to be a victim of betrayal. You were never designed to be the offering others use to validate their control. God destined you to walk in courage. God designed you to stand in strength. God has appointed you to guard your purpose the way a warrior protects a sacred gate. Yet many of you have been swayed by tradition, by religious pressure, or by guilt from others into believing you must forgive absolutely everything. But hear me clearly, God never asked you to live blindly. He never told you to invite the serpent back into your sanctuary. The serpent was cast out, not embraced. A betrayer who refuses transformation remains a threat to your future. God's command isn't just to forgive, it's also to guard your spirit. And at times, protection means closing a door and never reopening it. There's a reason the Lord declared, "Come out from among them and be separate." There's a purpose behind His call to lead His chosen out of destructive cycles, out of toxic unions, and out of deceptive traps. Your divine purpose cannot grow in the soil of confusion. Your anointing cannot thrive in a garden overtaken by thorns. And your mission cannot move forward while you're constantly fending off attacks from those seated at your own table. Betrayal must not only be acknowledged, it must be confronted with discernment, boldness, and full allegiance to God's truth. Let us go even further. Betrayal is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes betrayal speaks through silence. It is when the one who claimed to care stood by quietly while your world fell apart. It's when someone had the chance to defend your name but chose their comfort over courage. And when that happens, don't excuse it. Silence in the presence of wrong is a form of agreement. Anyone who stood idle while your name, your peace, or your heart was torn down bears the stain of complicity. Don't cover for them. Don't shrink the weight of what they allowed to happen, because God sees everything. He sees who celebrated you outwardly, but cursed you behind closed doors. He knows who saw you drowning and simply walked away. That too is betrayal. And what does God say about such betrayal? He declares, "I will repay." He proclaims, "Vengeance belongs to me." He warns, "Do not touch my anointed." These are not gentle suggestions, they are divine decrees. And when people violate that command, you are not asked to shield them from what's coming. You are not required to carry pain so they can feel safe. Your role is to let God deal with it. But to do that, you must step aside. You cannot keep entertaining danger and expect to be delivered. You cannot embrace the betrayer and still hope for peace. God will never rescue what you continue to protect in disobedience. So I urge you now, see clearly. Examine your life through the lens of holy discernment. Who in your circle builds you up? Who drains you? Who supports your assignment? And who quietly diminishes your fire? These are not harsh questions, they are holy ones. This is not judgment, it is spiritual alignment. God is not calling you into resentment, He's calling you into reverence. Honor the mission He has placed within you. Honor the purpose shaped through your trials. And above all, honor the boundaries that shield your peace. And you must understand this. Releasing betrayal doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've finally grasped the mission. Some individuals are meant for a moment, not a lifetime. Some connections were never destined to enter your future. The longer you cling to what God is clearly removing, the longer your breakthrough is postponed. Don't let compassion turn into a trap. Don't let your affection for people outweigh your commitment to God. Because when you stand before the Lord at the final judgment, those who betrayed you won't be by your side. It will be you and the decisions you made. And I speak to you now with a trembling heart before the presence of the Almighty. This is the time to guard your soul with seriousness. This is not the season to be careless about your inner circle. This is not the moment to be sentimental about those who once walked with you but secretly plotted your fall. God cannot be deceived. He is fully aware. He is never confused about who stands with you and who is only acting loyal. And when God reveals those who are undermining His purpose in your life, your reaction becomes a test of faith. Will you cling to the familiarity of the past, or will you step forward with sacred boldness to protect what God is birthing? There comes a point in every chosen vessel's life when God shakes the foundation not to destroy you, but to expose what was built on lies. He'll let the storm rage to reveal who truly loved you and who only showed up for the performance. Don't grieve over the exposure. Praise God for it. He allowed the mask to fall so your calling wouldn't be suffocated. He let the serpent speak so you'd stop calling it a friend. And once He reveals the truth, your role is not to hide it again. Your role is to walk away. And walking away isn't rebellion, it's divine obedience. When God calls for separation, it's because He's preserving the oil on your life. Beloved, destiny won't wait for indecision. Purpose cannot blossom where deception lingers. And the Spirit of God will not dwell in spaces where betrayal is welcomed. If you keep the betrayer close, you're choosing ease over assignment. You're picking the comfort of yesterday over the new thing God is trying to manifest. Sometimes the reason peace is absent is because you're lying beside what God has already rejected. You're entertaining voices God has already silenced from heaven's court. And when that happens, you block the current of divine favor. Let me tell you this plainly and without apology. God will subtract before He blesses. He will separate before He promotes. Because increase demands clean hearts, and clean hearts cannot grasp what is still defiled. You must decide. Will you keep nurturing the memory of the one who wounded you, or will you surrender that space to the Lord? Will you carry bitterness that festers, or will you pour it out and let God consume you with holy fire? The decision is yours, but know this: postponing obedience still counts as rebellion. And I understand it's painful. It pierces the soul to release people you interceded for, those you shielded, those you held up through their broken seasons. Yet if their betrayal becomes habitual, if their behavior continuously drains your strength, clouds your vision, and weighs down your spirit, you must choose God over shared memories. You must say, Lord, if your presence isn't in that relationship, I let it go. If you're not part of that conversation, I won't speak it. If you're absent from that environment, I will not remain. This is the narrow path. This is the journey of the devoted. This is what surrender truly looks like when you belong to God. Some of you are spiritually tethered to people who never honored your presence. They arrived to consume, not contribute, to scatter, not support. And every time you forgave and reopened the door, the same pain returned. That's not your weakness, it's your warning. And when God sends a wake-up call, don't silence it with comfort. Don't argue with your discernment. Don't let smooth words erase the truth God has shown you, because discernment is a divine tool, and dismissing it dishonors the giver. Hear this now. You are not lacking love because you set limits. You are not prideful because you protect your peace. You are not bitter because you refuse to return to what shattered you. That is clarity. That is growth in the Spirit. That is evidence that your fear of God now outweighs the fear of people. To fear God is to respect what He values. And He values your purpose. He values your soul. He values your future. So why should you treat those treasures with disregard? And if someone betrayed you knowingly, repeatedly, without repentance, they are not a friend, they are a trap from the enemy. And the moment you stop sugarcoating that truth is the moment you step into liberty. The enemy doesn't need to destroy you entirely to derail you. He just needs to keep you entangled with the wrong connections. If he can't rob your gift, he'll surround it with voices that water it down. If he can't cancel your purpose, he'll entangle it in chaos. If he can't steal your light, he'll confuse you until you forget why it was burning in the first place. So rise with courage, stand with clarity, walk under God's authority. Declare to yourself, I am no longer accessible to betrayal. I will no longer hand over what cost me tears, time, and spiritual battles to build. I refuse to excuse wickedness just to keep the peace. I will walk in truth, even if it means walking alone. And let me assure you, when you take that stand, God will reward your obedience. He will remove every counterfeit and send the genuine. He will surround you with those who refresh your spirit. He will bring companions who carry integrity. He will breathe life into what betrayal tried to bury. Because God doesn't just subtract, He restores. But He cannot bring renewal to what you still cling to. So let today be your moment of divine awakening. Let this be the day you stop labeling betrayal as simple confusion. Let this be the day you stop apologizing for your transformation. Let this be the day you stop diminishing yourself to keep unfaithful people at ease. Let this be the day you allow God to cleanse your surroundings, because what lies ahead demands a heart made whole, a mind set on Him, and a life deeply anchored in His presence. And remember this, the betrayer may still mention your name. They may continue to distort the story. They may play the victim while you bear the scars. Let them. Their voice holds no authority over the one whose steps are ordered by the Lord. Your role is not to fight back. Your role is not to prove anything. Your role is to rise higher, to live boldly, to flourish freely, and to walk in such alignment with God that no scheme formed against you can even touch you, because God has the final word. God has the last say. And when you move in that divine assurance, no betrayal can stop what He has destined. Now let this truth root itself deep within you. Betrayal doesn't hinder God's plan, it highlights it. It reveals what needed to fall away. It brings hidden agendas to light. It removes the shadows that quietly drained your strength. And though your heart may ache now, though tears may fill your eyes and disappointment weigh heavily on your chest, know this for certain: God is not the creator of chaos. He is the one who brings all secrets into the light. He permits betrayal to surface, not to destroy you, but to release you. Release you from false connections. Release you from the temptation of familiar pain. Release you from trusting what He has already rejected. Sometimes the kindest thing God will ever do is break your heart to save your soul from a trap, because He sees what is hidden. He hears the whispers spoken in secret, the plans crafted in shadows, the intentions wrapped in kindness but rooted in harm. He notices what you have chosen to overlook. And when He removes the veil from your eyes, it's not so you'll drown in sorrow, it's so you'll walk in discernment. God doesn't expose to crush you. He reveals to give you a choice. And when the truth comes to light, you must not run back to the comfort of lies. There is no peace in embracing deception. There is no righteousness in remaining quiet while the enemy works close by. God didn't give you spiritual vision so you could ignore it. He didn't grant you wisdom so you could stay passive while your calling is being attacked. You have been called to stand, to draw clear boundaries, to distinguish the sacred from the corrupt, and to defend the divine assignment He has placed within you. And let me say this clearly: Repeated betrayal is not merely a hardship, it's a warning sign. When God reveals that repetition, He's urging you to break the cycle, break the emotional strongholds, break the manipulation masked as love, break the false belief that you are obligated to repair what someone else continually ruins. God is not appointing you as the Savior of those who choose to stay broken. He is not calling you to drain your soul trying to keep someone in your life who was sent to disrupt it. Some individuals are messengers of chaos, eloquent with their words, yet destructive in behavior. And when God declares, "That's enough," your only response should be full surrender, not delay, not bargaining, just obedience. Because the more you hesitate, the more you postpone your breakthrough. Let's go even deeper. Some betrayals run through bloodlines. They wear the title of family but carry bitterness like a weapon. They act pleased by your blessings but conspire when your back is turned. You were taught to tolerate it, to name it loyalty, to label it love. But understand this truth: God is not restricted by cycles of dysfunction. He does not expect you to remain in prison just because the prison looks familiar. If the relationship robs your peace, undermines your purpose, and devalues your anointing, it must be surrendered. You honor God more by walking away than by clinging to what poisons your spirit. And you might say, "But they've been in my life forever." Hear me now. Longevity isn't loyalty. Just because someone has walked beside you for years doesn't mean they're aligned with your journey. Some stay close yet never truly stand with you. They remain present but never defend your heart. And when God exposes that reality, do not cover it with justifications. Do not excuse what He has revealed. Choose God's direction over every emotional tie. Because the more room you give the betrayer, the more you grieve the Holy Spirit who longs to usher in newness. After betrayal, God often grants a sacred stillness, the kind of holy silence where He says, "Now that they've gone, I can finally speak." And in that quiet, you'll see clearly. You'll remember your true identity. You'll feel the release. You'll notice how much unrest, fear, and heaviness came simply from allowing the wrong voices too close to your spirit. Often it's not your actions that block you, it's the voices you entertain. And when God removes the betrayer, He's clearing out the noise so you can hear Him again. You don't need a crowd to be chosen. You don't need recognition to be affirmed. You don't need the same old faces around you to confirm your steps. All you truly need is the assurance that your life aligns with God's will. And if that means stepping away from what once felt secure, then take that step. If it means being misjudged, then let them misjudge. If it means being labeled as distant, unkind, or unwilling to forgive, let them talk. The approval of people can never compare to the reward of divine favor. And that favor rests on those who choose the voice of God above all other noise. My dear friend, let me remind you, God never forgets. He never overlooks the pain you endured. He never turns a blind eye to the betrayal, the deception, or the manipulation you faced. But more importantly, He never forgets how you chose to respond. When you pick righteousness over revenge, when you choose stillness instead of speaking ill, when you place boundaries over emotional collapse, He takes note. He collects your tears. He honors your self-control. He blesses your endurance. And at the right time, He will elevate you in front of those who tried to destroy you, not so you can boast, not to shame them, but to reveal that His presence never left you, even while betrayal surrounded you. And you must not look back. Do not return to what God has already released you from. Do not reopen doors He shut for your protection. Do not entertain voices He has already silenced. Because your destiny is not controlled by them, it is held securely in God's hands. And if He removed them, it was part of His plan for your healing. What you lost through their betrayal, He will return through His favor. What was taken in secret, He will restore in truth. What was shattered through lies, He will rebuild with justice. But first you must release it. Let go of the anger. Let go of the apologies you never received. Let go of the sleepless questions that torment your prayers. Let go of the desire that one day they'll make things right. Whether they confess or not, whether they comprehend or not, your healing does not rely on them. Your peace is from God. Your tomorrow is written in His hands. Your restoration begins the very moment you stop looking to the betrayer for closure and receive it straight from the one who sees every tear, knows every wound, and heals with purpose. You are not deserted. You are being redirected. You are not left behind. You are being strengthened. You are not ignored. You are being shaped. Betrayal didn't destroy you, it awakened you. And now you rise not with vengeance, but with vision. You rise with a renewed sense of direction, with peace as your anchor, and with a flame that betrayal could not put out. You rise as someone who carries wisdom carved by hardship, clarity born from deep heartache, and resilience formed by walking hand in hand with God. And if these words reach your ears right now, it means God is drawing a divine boundary in your life, a line between the past and the promise, the betrayal and the blessing, the struggle and the strength. And now you must choose. Will you continue holding on to what God has asked you to release? Or will you rise, lift your head, wipe your tears, and declare, I refuse to let betrayal sit at the table God prepared for me? Because the fullness of God's presence cannot rest where confusion and compromise are permitted to stay. If you desire God's peace, you must first cleanse your surroundings of hidden adversaries and lukewarm allies. You must create space for what is sacred. And sometimes that means letting go of what feels safe and familiar. God is not calling you to live in paranoia, but He is calling you to walk in spiritual discernment. And discernment is not merely recognizing those who oppose you. It is also about having the boldness to disconnect from those who deplete your spirit, who weaken your soul, and who disguise themselves as encouragers while secretly rejoicing in your setbacks. You must pay attention not only to what they say, but to the fruit of their lives. For the Lord said, you shall know them by their fruit, not by their compliments or charm. And when the fruit is spoiled, do not keep it, hoping it will someday be sweet. Spoiled fruit spreads decay to everything around it. When God reveals corruption, He is sounding a divine alarm. Guard what I have planted within you. There is a level of peace you cannot access until you separate from what unsettles your soul. Some of you have been pleading with God for peace, yet you continue to hold on to those who stir chaos. You have fasted, cried out, and asked for clarity, yet still you entertain conversations with those who dwell in disorder. And the Lord is saying, it's not that I haven't replied, it's that you haven't obeyed. Obedience brings peace. Obedience releases protection. And understand this. Some of the storms in your life are not attacks from the enemy, they are divine disruptions. They are sent by God to force out what you've been too afraid to release. Betrayal, when it strikes, leaves behind pain, but also a mirror that reveals who you are without them, a mirror that reflects your hidden strength, a mirror that reminds you of the purpose you had forgotten while dragging along those never meant to join you. And in that sacred moment, when betrayal becomes a mirror, don't turn away, don't retreat. Let it uncover, let it cleanse. Let it confirm that you are not who they said you were. You are not the false image they painted. You are not the lies they spread. You belong to God, and you are rising into the very identity they tried to erase. Understand this truth. Betrayal is often a sign of coming change. It announces that something powerful is about to unfold, that a door is about to open, that new growth is already underway. And the betrayer was dispatched to derail it, to throw you off just before the blessing arrives, to confuse your spirit just before the breakthrough emerges. But if you withstand the trial, if you resist bitterness, if you walk away without seeking revenge, God will honor your discipline. He will strengthen your hands, He will increase your peace, and He will elevate you to a place where betrayal can no longer touch you. Yes, sometimes betrayal is loud and shameless wounds made in full view. But more often, it is quiet and disguised. A whisper, a shift in behavior, a pause in loyalty, a seed of doubt quietly sown into others. And if you're not aligned with God's voice, you will overlook it. That's why it's crucial to stay sensitive to the leading of the Holy Spirit. You must pray not only for blessings, but also for insight, not just for opportunities, but for divine separation from those who lead to spiritual harm. Every morning, ask the Lord, who is truly with me? Who did you send? And who must I let go? Some people show up as heartbreak, but are truly God's protection in disguise. Some are answers to the prayers you whispered during sleepless nights, when you cried out for rest, when you pleaded, God, if they're not from you, please remove them. And God responded, He acted. But when He took them away, you didn't see it as deliverance, you saw it as rejection. But hear this clearly. Sometimes a person's exit is the entrance of God's will. Sometimes the silence from people around you is actually the sound of God's favor increasing in your life. He will subtract before He adds. He will cut back before He blesses. And He will cleanse your atmosphere before releasing His next outpouring. And yes, it stings. Yes, it may leave you confused. But never forget, God is not obligated to explain. He is only committed to fulfilling His purpose. And His purpose is always good, even when it seems like loss, even when it looks unfair, even when the one who hurt you walks away unrepentant and appears to thrive. God is still on the throne. And He is the one keeping the final account. He is the one who sees beyond your present pain. When God removes someone, He is not stealing from you. He is clearing room for what is better, cleaner, and more aligned with your destiny. You must stop viewing betrayal as the final chapter. It may be the first page of a brand new story. God will use betrayal to sharpen your spiritual sight. He'll use it to build your discernment. He'll use it to shift you from relying on people to relying fully on Him. Because some of you have leaned too long on people who were never meant to support your weight. You built your stability on their presence. You placed your happiness on their validation. But God, in His fierce love for you, will not allow anyone to become your false foundation. And when someone becomes a counterfeit support in your life, He will remove it so that only He stands as your strength. Let me say this plainly. If someone betrayed you and never returned with humility, never admitted the hurt they caused, never repented or showed change, you are not obligated to walk the road of restoration with them. Forgiveness does not mean foolishness. Grace is not the same as forgetting. Love does not require you to ignore the truth. God never asked you to reopen the door for someone who set your world on fire. He commands you to forgive so your heart won't turn bitter, but He never asks you to act as if the fire never burned. The scar is a reminder of the wisdom gained. The ache is a reminder of why protection matters. And setting boundaries is proof that you've grown. If they say, you're distant, you've changed, you don't love the way you once did, let them talk, because you have changed. And you were supposed to. Pain is meant to transform you. Betrayal isn't something to passively endure. It's a moment of awakening, a divine disruption, a sacred shift. You were never called to embrace evil just because it's dressed in sentimentality. You were called to rise above it, to answer the call of a higher place God is leading you into. And if the elevation is too high for the betrayer to follow, so be it. Some paths are meant to be walked without the familiar. You must also understand, betrayal doesn't always look like slander. Sometimes it's being ignored. Sometimes it's silence when you cried out for help. Sometimes it's watching you suffer and choosing to stay quiet. Sometimes it's allowing others to destroy your name while they stand by and say nothing. That too is betrayal. That too leaves scars. But even in that place, even when justice seems distant, God is still at work. He is still recording. He is still shaping your next chapter from the ashes of this one. So don't mourn what God removed. Don't nurture what He has uprooted. Don't revisit the place He delivered you from. Betrayal was never your ending. It was the turning point. It was heaven's announcement. No more distractions. No more delays. No more disobedience. Now move forward. Move into clarity. Step into healing. Walk into your purpose unapologetically. Walk with the authority of one who has been wounded but remains unshaken, betrayed but still blessed, shaken but standing strong. Because the highest form of revenge isn't retaliation, it's elevation. It's when God raises you to a place where those who tried to bury you must look up to witness what they couldn't destroy. It's when your obedience silences every accusation. It's when your peace outshouts their gossip. And it all begins with one choice: to release the pain and cling to the healing. Only God can provide that healing, not people, not explanations, not apologies. Only God. So lift your head. Square your shoulders. You've endured what could have crushed you. You've survived what others didn't. Now God is leading you into a chapter where betrayal loses its grip, where loyalty is confirmed, and where your soul is surrounded by alignment instead of turmoil. But before you enter that blessing, you must pass this final test. Walk away and don't look back, not in anger, but in confidence. Not with resentment, but with holy boldness. Because what's ahead cannot be tainted by what wounded you. What God is crafting in you is too sacred to be touched by what once tried to destroy you. Stand on that truth. Speak from that place. Live in that clarity. Let your silence toward the betrayer speak louder than words, testifying that you now walk with God and God alone. You have heard this truth, not from man, but from the depth of divine urgency. The time has come to stop tending to wounds meant to be closed. The time has come to silence the voices that prove through their betrayal they were never meant to walk the whole journey beside you. This is your hour to align with God's will and sever every tie, every soul, every bond that hinders your purpose. Let betrayal be the evidence that God is shifting you into something higher. Let it be the final push that drives you deeper into prayer. Let it cleanse your intentions, stretch your faith, and sharpen your discernment. Don't view betrayal as defeat. See it as a gateway, a threshold, a sacred trial wrapped in sorrow, but filled with the seed of your next breakthrough. Because what came to destroy you will become the very foundation where God establishes your strength. So drop the weight. Close that chapter. Dust off your spirit and walk ahead not with fear, but with fire. Let your scars speak of God's faithfulness. Let your silence reveal deep peace. Let your steps declare to both heaven and earth, I choose obedience over offense, wisdom over deception, and God above all else. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are defined by what God says about you, and no betrayal can rewrite that. The road is open, the voice is clear, and God is beside you. Keep walking.